yeah, we try to do our last webinar for fall quarter, and it worked on the YouTube page, but then it didn't work for the Facebook, and people couldn't log in. All these problems, we had to like redo a bunch of it. Such a pain. Sometimes technology hates me.
Well, I want to do that for our ladies, at least our state directors, and get them because, like, I just asked for a video from one of these ladies, and the camera was down here, and the lighting was terrible coming from the side, and everything was shadowed, and I'm
Right.
just like,
Yeah.
that's an easy fix for if they just had the
Yeah.
information.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, now this should be working, but okay, great. Now I've got the little there. Now it's working. Okay, good. At least it's working on the Facebook page. Hi, everybody. Yeah. So if you're just tuning in, send us some comments, put some little hearts in there. Let us know you're listening. We're happy to have you here. And I think this is working for YouTube as well. So that's another way to tune in if you're not a Facebook gal, which I'm usually not. But yeah, this you kind of have to be if you're in this business. Um, my name is Mara Barnes. I'm the founder of the Women Gun Owners Association of America, and today I have Dianna. Is it Muller? Is that how you
Mhm.
say it?
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
And she's with Women for Gun Rights, previously known as the DC Project, and she is one of those leaders for Second Amendment advocacy. And for me, I found that to be a very confusing thing to try to get involved with. It's like there's all these different ways that you could give money and then just get buried in emails from that particular group, or you could, write a letter, but you don't really know who to write the letter to. It winds up being a bit convoluted and confusing, and there's all these different groups. And I've talked to you a number of times, Dianna, and you have said that it's quite fragmented for the Second Amendment advocacy, which is sad because we should all be on the same page. So, if there's a way that you can speak to that a little bit and how we could all come together a little bit easier?
Well, A, thank you for having me. B, listening to this podcast, taking an interest. I feel like we all have a journey that through your life as when you start paying attention. Now, I didn't pay attention to politics for the majority of my adult life. And it wasn't until a really God moment when I was sitting in a legislator's office as a guest because a friend said, "Do you want to meet your legislator?" And I didn't want to be rude. And I was like, "I guess so. That's what you do in Washington, D.C." And that was when really kind of God put it on my heart. I was like, "Hey, is there something that I should be doing as a professional shooter to help educate the people in the building that were making some really egregious decisions based on misinformation or just ignorance?" And it was from there that the DC Project was born, and that was one woman from every state. And then we realized in 2019 that um, the fight was really in the states because we saw Virginia fall to an all anti from the governor on down, and I was like, "Holy cow! Our ladies need to be going to the state capitals just as much as they go to the federal capital." And that's when we opened our doors to everybody, became a real organization, and started just trying to copy the national plan and take it down to the state level. So all the women who had been coming to Washington D.C. not knowing what they were doing. Honestly, none of us know what we're doing. And I think that that's my point to your audience is that I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just doing something. That was our hashtag for a while, was doing something, because all the anti-gunners would say, we have to do something. And I was like, well, we are doing something. We have legitimate education pieces, and we have answers. You just don't want to hear our answers.
Mm.
So back to encouraging your audience to just jump in and educate yourself, because honestly, I would put money that maybe close to 100% of the people watching don't know their federal legislators, they don't know their state legislators. They hear senator, they might know a name that is a senator, but they may not know if it's a state or federal level. So we've really had to educate the people who come into DC and come into Women for Gun Rights, and let them basically a civics lesson. And uh, that's where we start. So don't think that because you don't know these things, don't think that we have all of the answers, because honestly, it's just digging in and starting to do something. And it's not enough for you to know their names. What I encourage you to do is to plug into like Women for Gun Rights and help them know your name. If they don't, if somebody from their office doesn't know your name, then you really don't really have a relationship, and we really want to form those relationships.
Right, a little bit of strength in numbers there as well. And you're so right about just jumping in and getting started. And I think it's the intimidation factor. Just like it seems like everything to do with firearms. If you're not familiar with it, it's pretty tough to just jump in. But you have to just take your courage and your heart with you, and you'll be okay. And that's where groups like yours really help out because you are leading the charge and you are going to be there with them. And you also do quite a bit of training for those new people who are getting involved, right?
No, I would like to. I would like to
Mm.
do some outreach into, do something like this or something like a Google Teams meet, and just do like a Civics 101 lesson, like how is a
Hmm.
bill written? Remember
Uh-huh.
that I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. Like, remember that from when I was a kid. It might be a little too young for you, but or too old for you. But I remember that, but I didn't pay attention to it when it was there.
Hmm.
But now I see it again, and I'm like, holy cow! That was really helpful. That was really
Hmm.
entertaining and simple, very elementary. And
Hmm.
so maybe we can throw up the cartoon again and let people remember what.
Right. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
annoying probably, but it's a good idea. There's a reason those things stick, right?
we'll be singing it the rest of the day. You're
Yeah, right. So how does it actually work? So let's say that there's somebody else in a different state and they are, going to become a part of your group. Do they typically come and spend a day with you, go to DC with you, kind of feel what that's supposed to be like, and then take it back to their own state if they're going to be a director there? Or, I guess, what are the steps that someone should be taking?
That's a great question. I'll go over kind of the structure of Women for Gun Rights. So we have four regional directors, which the states are broke up into. They have 10 to 12 each, and they are responsible for shepherding their region. All of the state directors, our goal is to go to Washington, D.C. one time a year with all of our state directors or one of their delegates that they think that needs to go. And the
Hmm.
goal is to not only nourish those relationships, but our goal is to nourish the girls. They need to, get outside their comfort zone and have those meetings and have those difficult conversations and navigate a place that they've never been and feel more comfortable in front of a hearing room and just to absorb what's going on in those atmospheres. So when they go back to their state capitals, and their goal is to go to their state capital at least once a year. So usually the state legislatures run from about January to sometimes they're 2, 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months, but the first half, first and second quarter of the year.
Okay.
Some like Texas that only goes every other year. So it really depends on what state you're in. So our state directors are charged with going to their state capital at least once a year, having those conversations, those meetings with friendlies and with people who disagree with us. Because really, that's who I want to talk to the most. I want them to understand that I am not the demon. I am not, I am a lawful person using a lawful product, doing a lawful thing, and
Hmm.
that self defense is not a crime. And that as
Yes.
a woman, I am lesser prepared for violence, and having a firearm in my repertoire, in my toolbox, only helps me be more safe. So
Uh-huh.
that's the conversations that we want to have. And when somebody signs up, they will get a welcome series. They will get in touch with the state director should get in touch with them, and then they're kind of in their data center there. And like, let's say we're in Washington State, and the Washington State director says that we're going to go to the state capitol on February the 2nd. If anybody can come, and start organizing it that way.
Hmm.
And honestly, when I went to the Oklahoma State Capitol for the first time, I I chose a date for me because I had to go.
Hmm.
And then I was just like, if anybody wants to come, they can. And I had about 10 ladies that came with me, and it was really perfect because we broke up into two groups. It's much easier to do a state level visit because all of the offices are in the same building. it goes much faster. So I did find out that the more you prepare, if you kind of know where the offices are, you know who you're going to go visit, that things tend to run a little bit faster at a state level and going to the state capital as opposed to the U.S. capital. Things are
Mm-hmm.
a lot further spread apart. You've got some downtime going to and from places. So the logistics are a little bit different, but yeah, you hopefully your state director will pipe up a date and you can jump on. We also, honestly, I watch moms demand action, and whatever they do, I feel like that's our niche, is that we need to counter if they have bad information, we need to counter that. And for the most part, they're beating the drum of more gun control, more gun control, more gun control. So
Very emotional too.
we're beating the drum of, I want to be safe and use a firearm if necessary. So what they're really good at is influencing their friends, their families, their
Mm.
communities, and their legislators. They started out with being very bullish with their legislators and demanding, it's in their name. But what they're doing now is like they're doing fundraisers and bicycle, like, 5Ks and bicycle races, and they are experts at, who doesn't want to be safe, and that's what they stand on, and that they want to be safe, and that they sell this misinformation that taking away guns from everybody or restricting guns or
Yeah.
common sense gun control is going to make them safer. So it's really easy to get those community people on board. It's a little bit more difficult for us to say, hey, hold on, um, that's a bad plan. But I really do believe it's going to be up to the women's voices and the women speaking about why we want to save the Second Amendment, why we think it's important, and why we want to protect ourselves and our families.
Yeah.
So that's where this boils down to, is like, we're not only going to go to the state capitol. I want everybody to, if there's a delegate, if there's a delegate that knows about a festival coming up, or if my little puppy dog came out, she's
Oh,
going crazy.
it's okay.
Uh, but if there's a festival, if there is a something at, a speaking opportunity at a church or a ladies function, like, take those opportunities to influence your friends, your families, your neighbors, and your legislators.
Hmm. Would you say that that's the hardest part, is having those hard conversations with someone who might disagree with you, or was it harder for you to, or more intimidating for you to go actually to the state capitol and speak to somebody who can make those decisions and tell them your opinion?
Well, it is very difficult to have the hostile communications,
Mhm.
and but honestly, here's where having these conversations and knowing that you want to have the conversation, it's kind of, I always equate it to being a disciple for Christ. Like, as a Christian, if I don't read the Bible, if I don't have a relationship with Christ, if I don't know my content, I can't really influence others for Christ. Same thing with the Second Amendment. Same thing with America. If I
Mhm.
don't know why I oppose universal background checks, if I don't know why I oppose red flag laws, in my gut, I know it's wrong, and I've heard people say that I don't support it, but I really don't know how to tell my friend or my mom why I don't support those things. That's why that one page talking points document that's on our landing page, it's free to download. Have that handy. If you
Yeah.
if you don't have it, just print it out whenever it's on our website.
No,
So
honestly,
it's
let's pause there because I have it printed out right here, and
okay.
I find it very helpful. Yeah, it's just a one page from Women for Gun Rights, how to talk about gun safety and protecting the civil rights of all Americans, and it goes topic by topic of why you can stand behind what you are feeling in your gut. It's hard to put words onto it, especially when you have someone who's arguing with you, but it's really straightforward and it takes the emotional piece out of it and just says, well, no, universal background checks are not a good idea because it creates a national registry. Gun registries are against federal law. Registries historically have led to mass confiscation. They restrict a family's ability to share firearms or lend and teach. They make it more expensive or difficult for good citizens to get guns, while criminals circumvent the system. These are all great talking points that you might forget about if you aren't really solid on everything. And so it's worth downloading, and it's so simple. It's just like you said right there on your landing page. And is that sorry, womenforgunrights.org.
Org. Uh-huh.
.org. Okay.
womenforgunrights.org. So,
Hmm.
and I encourage everybody to be intentional about their conversations and being just like being a Christian. You know, if you take that journey, you're just like, okay, I don't feel comfortable having the conversation about Christ with somebody, but I know I need to. So let me, give me the opportunities to talk to somebody. Same thing with the Second Amendment. Just be
Hmm.
intentional about understanding a couple of those things, and be prepared to go through the door when it opens for you. We got Thanksgiving coming up. So, what a perfect time to revisit that one-page talking point, a document, and say, hey, okay, well, I feel a little bit better about explaining my position.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And also I'm like, oh, because I work as a 911 dispatcher during the day job. And so um, we get so many domestics on Thanksgiving and during Christmas. I'm like, oh, at your own risk, discuss these things with your family.
For sure.
Yeah, but I mean, human basic instinct is that we want to be a part of our tribe. If you are kicked out of your tribe, if you're ostracized and you're still a caveman, that your inner self is going to realize that that means death. You cannot get
Right.
kicked out of your tribe. You cannot survive alone, and that follows us around. We're still just kind of animals, and so I think that's a big reason why it's hard to have these conversations with somebody who disagrees with us, especially so passionately. This is a very polarizing type of thing, which it shouldn't be if you are logical and you look at why we have this right.
And
Go
that's
ahead.
one thing that people can remember. Like whenever somebody says that the Second Amendment is political or divisive, you can you I stand firm when I hear that now, and I'm like, no, it is not divisive. It is a constitutional issue. It is not a partisan issue. So it
I love
does
that.
seem like,
Yeah.
yeah, it does seem like one party has definitely lockstep against guns and the Second Amendment,
Hmm.
but that is their problem. That is against the Constitution, and you can, and when you feel good about having an answer to that, you don't have those here deer in the headlight look, and you lose all influence. So that's really
Hmm.
what the bottom line is influence.
Yeah, no, I definitely like looking at it from that perspective as well. And that also reminds me, I mean, I think that we might see some really good headway for those who support the Second Amendment and the First Amendment with this election going as well as it did, and the rest of the country, not Washington lately, but or ever pretty much, but so much of the country just went, nope, we're going red. We are tired of this nonsense, and we're not going to get all emotional and like have everything be led by our feelings anymore. Like, no, we got to get back to family and freedom, and part of that is the Second Amendment, right? Firearms. So I think we're definitely on the right track. How do you feel about it right now?
Well, I feel the same way. I feel like there have been, I mean, because well, first of all, let's remember that, like I said, women for gun rights, I want more Democrats in women for
Mm.
gun rights than I do Republicans, because it is a constitutional issue. So I don't want people to hear what I'm going to say next and think that this is a partisan group. I welcome those people, because we need the Democrats to say, "Hey, I'm a Democrat. I vote for you. You need to back up off the Second Amendment."
Hmm.
But with this last election, from what I was seeing and the headwinds, that I feel like that um, they would have, it would have been the final nail in the coffin of the Constitution. I think they would have put more justices on the Supreme Court. I think they would add more seats. I think that's what
Hmm.
all the border invasion is about, is to create more congressional seats, and,
Hmm.
and just manipulate the system to get their way. So let's hope that we don't start a nuclear World War III before January 20th. And but as far as the Second Amendment, I feel good. But this is like, I want to use these tailwinds to like go out and be more confident speaking to my community and my churches, and
Hmm.
saying, hey, I'm not the bad guy, and this is why the Second Amendment means so much to me.
Yeah, definitely. And well, one really great thing about the direction that this election took was that they are for free speech and
Mm-hmm.
they are for the Constitution. And those are things that are just so close to my heart because we have been censored, we have been shut down. And actually, something happened recently where I was listening to Washington Gun Law with
Mm-hmm.
William Kirk, and he does a great job of breaking down the different laws that are coming out and what we should be watching for. And he does national coverage as well, so that's really cool to be able to be kept in the loop fairly easily with someone like that. But the way he broke it down, and I won't do it justice very well, but he was saying that based on the election prior to this one, and then also the election this time, where we're still just blue, 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 despite the more and more numbers of people coming out and voting red, he said, Washington just doesn't have the numbers to go conservative, to go Republican. We just don't have it. And that made me feel better, actually, because since COVID started and all the censorship and always feeling like I was walking on eggshells and that I really felt like I was being hunted every time I walked out the door or went online or anything. And so, like, I stopped posting, I stopped sharing, I lost friends, and it just felt really, really left out and alone. Like my husband and I were like the only people who felt the way we did. And hearing that, okay, Washington doesn't have the numbers makes you feel like, okay, maybe I didn't just make all that up. I do feel that as a country, we way more people feel the way that I do than we had any idea because they were silenced. And I don't know, it just made me feel like, okay, so Washington, and it truly, I was surrounded by a lot of people who didn't agree with me. And so it makes a lot of sense. I'm still bummed about it, and I would like to get out of here, but that was pretty interesting for me.
Well, I do think that the censorship issue is huge, and what
Yeah,
I think that our liberal friends don't understand is how it affects how much they're doing it, and whether it be like I said earlier, I'm a lawful person doing lawful things with a lawful product,
yeah,
and I get hammered constantly. My page won't grow. They are hurting my business,
right.
and it's a shame, but I am hopeful that going forward we can look at something from this new administration that might be a little bit less restrictive. And I would love to see what Elon did with X and firing all the like 80% of the people. And he's like, it just turns out if you don't censor everybody, you don't need a bunch of people. And I was like,
Right.
critical to America, it's saving America, I think, because had he not done that, they would have been able to gaslight everybody and say, "We're not doing that. Oh, we're not doing that."
Hmm.
And him buying that and exposing and giving us a platform to be able to actually free speech and disagree with what's coming out and dissenting voices. It was just, I don't think you can underestimate it. I think that now on the other side, Elon scares the crap out of me because the whole robot thing and how the Neuralink and I don't know where this is going. I just, as Christian, I'll just leave it up to Jesus and I'll keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, you don't have too much control over that one, huh?
Yeah, yeah, but I sure do. It does give me a little bit of hope that we're not just completely circling the drain, and
Yeah.
that our constitutional stand.
Yeah, I feel nothing but hope right now.
Hmm.
This is gonna be great. It already is great, and I think we can all be very optimistic about times to come.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I have a question here. So, is there anything you'd like to say to someone who typically would fall for the message that gets spread by moms who demand action, who might be wondering how it's possible so many of us feel the exact opposite way? So, is there a straightforward way to convince her that it's worth exploring?
Well, that you are prepare for the madness, prepare for the unhingedness, prepare for the attack. And then when you don't respond to that attack because you're prepared and you're expecting it, that gives you a little bit of, at least couth. And when it comes to not losing your mind,
Mm-hmm.
because really, if you're not prepared for it, somebody attacks you, you're going to want to attack them. So if you just know that the attack is going to come, and that you're going to maintain a level head and you're not going to let your emotions go crazy like they are, that's your first step. Then just nobody can take away your story. Nobody can tell you that you're going to be safer if you give up your gun. I am 5'6" and 135, and there's nobody that can tell me that disarming me is going to make me safer. So I would encourage your audience to really find those like little quips that they're going to come back to every time. Like, I'm not safer when you disarm me. That's one of my go-tos. Nothing you're saying is going to make. Now, some of them are unhinged. So like TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. There's gun derangement syndrome, and
Yeah.
there's nothing that you're going to say that is going to change their mind. You might be able to be kind to them and tell them that you disagree with them, and that plants a seed in their head that is, you know, that's a little different, that might grow later and that they might
Yeah.
remember. So subconsciously, but there are just some people that cannot see and cannot hear anything other than what they're the matrix. I keep saying the matrix is real. That, you know, that they cannot hear anything else. They are plugged into the matrix, and there's nothing that you're going to do or say that can change them. And you just have to do what you can do, say what you can say, plant a seed, and hope that somebody waters it down the road.
Yeah. Well, and that's your superpower is to keep that level head,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to not buy into the emotional aspect of it. You know, they're very good at gaslighting people to make
And
them
it's
feel
hard to
like,
do. Yeah,
yeah, really hard to do.
it's really
Yeah.
hard to do.
Yeah. And takes some practice, and you might have to put
Mm-hmm.
yourself in that situation a number of times and lose,
Mm-hmm.
just, not perform as well as you wanted
Right,
to.
right.
Um, but yeah, the hysteria, it's hard not to react to it.
Yeah.
But to
Or call
understand,
names. Don't call names.
yeah.
Don't call them libtards. Don't call them whatever, you know, whatever you think that is, you know, on the top of your mind. Don't name call. Know that we have to stay above the fray and plant seeds of truth. And like I said, hopefully somebody will water them, and God will put some sunshine on it, and it'll grow in the future.
Well, and again, this election gives me hope that actually that did happen over and over and over. It wasn't that maybe necessarily about the Second Amendment,
Right.
but it was these seeds of truth that
America
people have
first.
planted by level-headed people like you and me and millions of Americans who have
Mhm.
been like, nah, I don't think that that's right, and I'm not gonna buy into this emotional thing you're doing. I'm gonna go this way, and you can check it out if you want to, but I'm not. That doesn't work for me anymore. Um, it does work, and know that you do make a difference. But the only way you're not going to make a difference is if you stay quiet and don't say a thing. You got to say something.
Right, right.
Tell me about Teal for 2A.
So when I testified for the first time at the House Judiciary hearing in like 2019-ish, we knew Mom's Demand. It was about the time that I was really paying attention to Mom's Demand, and we expected them to be there. We expected them to have that visual presence in the hearing room and have their red shirts and be like lots of people. So again, I'm watching them, and we had about 10 people. We picked up this shirt, this teal. We kind of, that's when we had teal for 2A. We have this educate, not legislate, is what it says.
Like that.
And because we believe that that's the key to firearm safety and violence prevention, is education. So we had these shirts made up, and everybody was sitting behind me with the teal shirts. We got there early because we knew that people were going to get there early, and sure enough, everything came true. We got our good seats. They sat behind me. So if you think about it, when those cameras on C-SPAN or whatever you're watching it on, or even the still images from the hearing, you know, who's sitting behind you is creating a message and creating a visual for the reader or the watcher. So
Mm-hmm.
um, we thought it was important, and I really do believe that the visual aspect of this T-shirt, this color, and this movement is just as important as, let's say, Moms Demand Action, and how they've been able to effectively use the red color. Now, they realize that they're kind of in hot water, so they've kind of changed to orange. And they've used it. They're going red. They still have red, Mom's Demand, but they've kind of changed the color to orange too. So
Here's the good news: orange looks bad on almost everybody.
I love orange. Orange
He
and red.
probably looks. He probably looks good on you.
It does, but I'm like, I get rid of all of it. I don't want to represent. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So the teal, that's where the teal for 2A came in, and we just encourage everybody. because whether it be the NRA, whether it be GOA, whether it be SAF, or anybody that is going to, if we could get them in this color, then we look as big as they are, because we do
Hmm.
outnumber them. But when you don't create that visual, it's
Right.
very difficult for people to be influenced. Like, they'll bus in people. They'll bus in people and throw the same shirt on them, and then it looks like there's 2,000 of them when there's 5,000 people in regular clothes that are all there for the same reason. So
Right. Yeah.
why
That
that's why
probably feels a bit disheartening for you to see that.
it
Yeah.
does. So that's why Teal for 2A is hopefully one of those messages that everybody can, put an NRA logo on this color, put a NRA, a GOA, whatever it is. Um, take the color for the Second Amendment.
Hmm. Have other groups been pretty receptive to that idea? Have any of them agreed to be like, yeah, we can make a teal shirt and we can all show up like that?
I we haven't gotten that organized.
Okay. Got it.
Everybody is kind of in their little cylinder, and nobody really. It's very difficult to
Right.
to coordinate with
Hmm.
people in the Second Amendment space at other groups. I say that. I mean, I have conversations with people within those organizations all the time. But getting to the right vein and getting the right leadership and people making the decisions and stuff like that, I don't have that much time in the day.
Sure. No, that's understandable.
It's
Yeah.
a
But I
bandwidth
think you're
issue.
Yeah, I think you're right about just showing up and sending the invite out there though. If
Yeah,
someone is willing to organize it, say, "Hey, at this time in this place, we're all going to meet, whoever wants to come." You'd be surprised how many people are going to show up because they're like, "Oh, thank goodness, somebody else did this. I really
right,
wanted to join in. I just didn't want to do it myself or didn't know how to do it myself."
right,
And I mean, ask me how I know. Like for both of those things. Like it's amazing when you just put in the effort, put in the organization and then let people know what's happening and they will come.
right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why, if the state director has that February 2nd or whatever I said earlier, I'm going to go to
Yeah.
the state capitol on February 2nd. We'll ship them 20 shirts, and whoever shows up, throw a shirt on them and go out and do your thing, and then get a group picture. It's all
Yeah.
about creating the optic. I recognize that more and more as I get older. Like, everything is manipulated, everything is an optic, everything is for the gram, everything is for influence. So our side just isn't very good at doing that.
Yeah, well, nobody wants to feel like they're alone, like I just said. So that does help to feel like you're in solidarity with more than just yourself.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, awesome. So what about events you're planning or where can someone go to find out more information of how to get involved with you?
Well, womenforgunrights.org, and
Yeah.
there will be a join. It is free to join. And event wise, SHOT Show is coming up. I don't know if any of your audience goes to SHOT Show, but
Yeah, a
if
lot of
you're
them.
SHOT Show, I'll have some extra one of these t-shirts. Wednesday is the day of SHOT Show, that there's a lot of governors running around, attorney generals, things
That's good
like
to
that.
know.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of legislators running around that day. And so I encourage everybody to wear their teal shirt on Wednesday. So that's coming up, and then
You guys have a
something
booth?
we do not.
Okay.
We do not. We do have a guy who's got some of our marketing materials and stuff, but we don't man a booth there. We probably will at NRA this year.
We're
Uh,
thinking about that too.
yeah, yeah, and that's
Hmm.
in Atlanta this year. So, one of the things that I want to do is every year we have a fly-in. So our state directors go to Washington D.C. and I want to have a conference, like a 2-day conference on the front side of that in Washington D.C. because I think everybody wants to go to Washington D.C. There's so much; it's so rich in our history, and there's so much to see that honestly, you could stay there a week and not see it all. But give people a little bit of a tourist type experience, but also give them some meat and potatoes when it comes to Second Amendment advocacy. And then I want to do a rally. We do a rally in front of the Supreme Court or the Capitol building for the optics every year that we go. So I would love to have, 500 women. Usually we have about 75
Hmm.
women come in for our fly in. And then at our rally, we have 100, 150, 200 at the most. And but I would love to see 500 or 1,000 people at that rally. I'd love to have a rally and have everybody in the teal shirts and really create a bigger visual. I'm trying to figure out if I can manage, like, let's say 500 women show up. Um, I'm trying to figure out how to manage the logistics of meetings, because if you and
Mhm.
I are from the same state, we can't be, only one person needs to be calling and asking for a meeting on behalf of Women for Gun Rights. So there's a lot of logistics there, but I
Yeah.
think I would love to hear what your people listening to us think about, having a conference in Washington, D.C. But I'd also like to do like a cruise conference, like do a cruise, be on a boat, have a bunch of women, all like minded, and then do a couple of breakout sessions, maybe a breakout session a day or maybe a half of a day. And so let me know whether you want
No,
to
that sounds really fun. Yeah,
DC or a cruise or both.
both.
Civics, teach Second Amendment advocacy, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and women are craving community, especially in this space. And
Yeah,
so, like I said, if it's organized and the event is there and the invite comes out, we'll make sure that everybody hears about it, and I bet you'll get a pretty nice turnout.
I
Um,
love it.
just just a couple months ago, my husband went to an event, and he does investments for big companies, and this he went. It was somebody else's event, but I got to join him after it was all done, and it was down in Cancun, and so they did like half the first half of the day was business and the rest was just go enjoy it, and they stayed at this beautiful resort. I'm like, okay, that's doing it right. Let's do
Well,
that.
maybe that's what we need to do, because boats are a little bit different. But even something like that, that would be fantastic. I think that people. I mean, I want to go to the beach all the time. So
Right. Yeah. The only problem is I always get sick when I go down there. It's either the water or some kind of food poisoning. I think I must have a really delicate intestinal tract or something because I'm like always
you
sick when I go
must,
down to the tropics.
you must.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to hear your feedback from your ladies to see
Great.
how they would respond to that.
Yeah. Comment below if you've got anything to add to that. If you want to come.
Where you want to go? If you're a cruise
Yeah.
director or
Yeah. Yeah.
a travel planner, let me know. Got ideas?
Yep, definitely. Yep, great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. If you guys want to learn more, womenforgunrights.org, and I'm sure you'll hear from Dianna Muller again. All right. Recording stopped.